I'm Tedder.
I'm Weber.
And we're
Tedder and Weber.
What episode are we on, Steph?
We're on 6, if you can believe it.
I really can't believe it,
I
actually.
I'm like,
I can't believe people are still watching this,
I know.
if I'm being truthful.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. And
It is.
today we did a little behind the scenes stuff, so I hope you guys have enjoyed that, which is probably a couple weeks ago for you now.
Right.
Because, we record a bunch. So
Yeah.
today, though, so we had talked about the 3 hinges of comparison, the 3 types of comparison. In the past 3 episodes, we really broke down that self-superiority and humble comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
And, interestingly enough, I think it's worth sharing that we've been prepping you guys for having special guests on our show, and which is still slated to happen.
It's just been pushed back.
Which is really funny because all the people that God had brought to our hearts, or we had thought that was the case, we kept reaching out hey, we're gonna record on this day, this time, are you available? And literally everyone said no. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. And then I was a little taken off guard by that, and I kept praying, okay, God, I know you're gonna bring someone. I know you're not just gonna leave us hanging.
Yeah. And then you reached out to me, and then so I was praying about it, and so what we both realized was he was leading us to do kind of a wrap up.
Yes.
And a couple of other topics. And the guests will be a little bit later.
Yes.
But
so we have a few more episodes prior to bringing on our special guests, which the lineup is,
pretty awesome.
Pretty amazing women. Some of, like I said, some of them that you'll never have heard of and you may never see them again or whatever. And
but
some of them
amazing.
some of them you might know, but yes, they are all incredible.
Yep.
And so today we just kind of want to put a bow on the 3 hinges of comparison.
In my way, just shove it in a gift bag and then show them
in the car 30 minutes late to the party.
What?
You're my
it's
people.
Me.
If that's what you do, then you're my people.
You know what? My mom, when I was growing up, she was a nurse, and we always had surgical tape, and that was what I wrapped all of the gifts in the car.
That's
on
hilarious.
The way to the party. And bandage scissors to cut the.
That's hilarious. No, I don't have cool stories like that. I just definitely wrap in the car and hope that there's a pen, somewhere in my purse, or most of the time I don't. Did you say write in blood?
Improvise, Mama.
I'm probably not gonna do that, just because I don't have time for that either. No, but we do. We want to wrap up the topic. Well, not really wrap it up, but close out the topic of comparison, the 3 hinges. We want to kind of just really share how we feel about each hinge of comparison and where we struggle the most. So in the past 3 episodes, we discussed self-comparisons, which, can you remind us what that is?
That's when we That's when we compare ourselves to each other. So I'm comparing myself to Lindsay and saying, oh, she's got it all together, and I'm a mess over here, which may or may not actually be the case,
and vice versa.
right, but we're comparing ourselves to somebody that we think has it all, and in reality they don't. And then a superiority comparison is when I'm looking down my nose at you because I have some mental scoreboard in my head where I'm like, oh, well, at least I don't do that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Way did you go, Steph? You've been paying excellent attention.
Yeah, I got it right.
That's too good. And then humble comparison.
That's when you minimize what you're going through. So if we're having something similar happen, and we have a similar background, and I say, oh, well, I can't even begin to imagine. I'm minimizing what I went through and what God wants to use in order to make somebody else, it's genuine, and it's not, I don't even think it's intentional.
No, it's not. We're, as Christian women, I don't want to get off on a tangent because we've already talked about this. We've been, bred to this humility, which is genuine. Humility is
right.
It's definitely something we should have, but not when it comes at the expense of our own value.
Yes.
So when we say there's a humble comparison, And it's that self-deprecating humility that really minimizes who you are and what your story is. That's really that hinge of comparison or humble comparison.
And I wanted to bring up something too. We keep referring to the hinges of comparison. When we started this, we and in the book, we use the analogy of a door. And you know, you can shut the door, you can open the door, you can do all the things with the door, but we're actually taking the hinge off the door of comparison. So each one of these is a hinge so that we can remove the door and not come back and keep opening and shutting it and just walk in
because
freedom.
if the door is on the hinges, then there's still an opportunity to disconnect. And so really just like our whole mentality on comparison is that comparison equals coveting, which we liken to this closed door mentality, each hinge being a type of comparison that we've identified. And we want to empower you. I use that word a lot, but it's kind of
true.
My jam. It's true
we're
though.
people, right?
But we want to empower you to remove those hinges one by one, at least starting the identification process, and then get through that removal process so that door doesn't have the opportunity to be shut, disconnecting you again from God and your community.
Absolutely.
Very well said, Lindsay. Thank you.
Wonderful job. Do you need a gold star?
I kind of do.
But you have a sparkly
I do have
gold.
a very sparkly. I don't know if you can tell that it's. Oh, there we go.
Okay,
I don't even tell that it's sparkly. My girl Weber got me this.
That almost looks
one.
like it was specially made for
It was.
your
There's a
glittery
slight phrase on it here. We'll just it's for my eyes only. They're gonna be like, "What's it say?"
Yeah, I know,
oh my
right?
gosh.
But yeah, one of my friends does those,
and she did a great job.
She did
because my husband keeps accidentally putting it in the dishwasher. But look, it's still perfect.
It's wonderful. Okay, so anyway, back up. We will go.
We'll just tangent it. That's fine. Okay.
Yes.
So I want to talk about the hinge of comparison, the type of comparison that you tend to struggle with, and well, me too. I guess I'll talk about myself as well. But like what we struggle with the most.
Yeah. So I would say it's definitely self-comparison. I look at people and I wonder what makes them so good. Why do they have something that I perceive that I don't? But I'm seeing just a glimpse of their life. I can't make a full evaluation of what they are, of who they are, or what they've been through.
Right. There's no way of knowing. I mean, I don't even know everything you've been through, and I think we're pretty close.
Yeah.
So,
and it's kind of like when you scroll through Instagram, or for those of you that are on Facebook, I'm not. But when you're scrolling through social media, and you stop and you say, "Oh, her house is perfect. Look at that." Well, you're seeing what's in front of the camera, but I guarantee you, if she turned around and did a selfie, you're going to see toys on the floor.
Yeah.
You're going to see something out of place. Yeah. Nobody is perfect.
Yeah. So I did this, and I don't know why this just came to my mind. But I'm really weird about my house. So like,
okay.
I was prior to small humans that exist in it. Like wash my sheets every Saturday morning and like psycho. Like no one can make my bed but me because no one does the corners correct. And like the toilets get scrubbed every Saturday. Like I was, a little intense.
It's okay.
And then, tiny people come and you can't be like that. Mm-mm. I mean, I guess I could, but also like I can't.
No.
But anyway, but I love to host. So like I love hosting anything really. You want to have a play date? Sure, I'll host. You want to have girls' night? Sure, I'll host. Do we want to sit on the back porch? Yes, please let me host. Like Bible study, I'm your girl. I love hosting. And so that was really a challenge for me once I became a mom because I would go, I don't want to say it crazy, but I would literally like run through my house like kind of a mad woman. Like
you'd get the Q-tips out, go around the baseboards. Is that what you're telling me?
No, I would use my foot with a sock on it.
Okay. Well, that's a little more reasonable. Thank
you. Yes. No, I would like just stress so much out about it. Like it became like this, very overwhelming situation for me. Not that it prevented me from hosting, but like it took away from that connection, that community, because
you're too busy focusing on what needs done.
Well, and I was comparing what their house might look like to mine. We got to tie back into the topic.
I know.
And so I went to this Bible study once, and for several years, actually, it was an ongoing kind of group. But like, I went, and nothing was wrong with her house. It wasn't dirty. It wasn't like nothing like that. She had kids too, and there was toys and whatever. I didn't even care. Like, I literally didn't care. Her couch was so comfortable, and we had the literal best conversations. It didn't bother me at all that like there was toys out or dog hair or whatever. I didn't even think about it. And then I went to the bathroom once, and I had to go back past her kitchen to get to the bathroom, and it was kind of a mess. Like dinner, like plates, and like the sink was full. The stove had dirty dish, like pans and stuff on it. And if I'm being very candid, my first thought was, gosh, how can you not even clean that up if knowing people are coming over? I think I said that really too fast. So sorry. My grandpa used to tell me I should get a job that paid by the word. So if that gives you any insight into my childhood about how frequently my mouth moved. But my first reaction was a little bit of a judgmental superiority comparison, if I'm being honest. Like, I would never let people to my house if my dishes were still on the sink and everything like that. And then I realized, like, that's not what we're about. Like, that's not why we're here. We're not here to see if her sink is clean. We're not here to, like,
run a white glove along.
No, like, we're here for Jesus and to have community. And so very quickly that influenced me, I think, more than I gave credit to at the time. And it actually allowed me a lot of freedom in my current state of life, where like people come over unannounced, or I mean, not often, but sometimes people come over unannounced.
Well, sometimes people just drop things on your leave, but... Yes,
they do. Or, you know, like, hey, I'm in the neighborhood, can I come by for coffee? Sure. And then I look around and I'm like, oh gosh, maybe I should have reconsidered that. And then I'm like, whatever. And so, you know, I still think I struggle with that like in that line of battle, like, oh, it should be really clean. It should look like nobody lives here. And I'm like,
but people live here. Correct.
And lots of people visit. And so it's like, excuse me, I'm kind of pretending I don't have a sore throat. So that's the tea. And I have a secret cough drop just in case. It's not so secret. No.
Not so secret now. No.
So anyway, I just like, I started that group with this like superiority comparison. Prior to that, I had a major self-comparison issue with the same topic. And then seeing her dishes and seeing how my reaction was, and then honestly just garnering what I got out of the group, like how much value that group made in my life, and really like the life change that it breathed into me. I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
No.
And so it was years ago. That was well before we even thought about this. And so,
but I think that we are really good about giving grace to other people.
Oh yeah.
You know, we may go, oh, what's going on here? But then we can justify a reason. Well, you know, okay, I need to give them grace because, you know, God loves them and I'm supposed to love as Jesus loves, and, you know, all the reasons.
Yeah.
But I think we forget to give grace to ourselves.
Yeah.
A lot.
Absolutely.
I'm horrible at it. I hold myself to ridiculous standards.
Would you say that is part of the reason that you feel disconnected when you're stuck in a self-comparison?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I want to isolate myself because I'm not good enough in my own eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm busy. I'm like, well, once I can do this and once I can make this happen, and, you know, then I'll be good enough. And I don't have to be good enough.
No.
I mean, I am me.
Right.
And I was put here intentionally for a reason.
Right.
And
you have value as is.
Yes. And I don't think, you know, that isolating is ever a good idea.
No.
Because when you're by yourself, the loudest voices that you hear are the ones that aren't the nice ones that are on replay in your head. Mm-hmm. And then you start to go, well, that's my truth. And unfortunately, it happens all too often. I still catch myself isolating. I'm like, nope. And then I'm like, wait.
Well, as a society, and not to like steal Jenny Allen's like show because it's really her show, but like in her Find the People, she really kind of digs into this. So if you need help cultivating a community, do that study because it's amazing. Yeah. But now I forget what I was going to say because I totally plugged Jenny Allen. But like that isolation, I mean, that is the danger zone. Yep. And here's what I was going to say. Our society has made it so convenient to isolate.
Yes.
You need anything, it can be delivered at your door within a couple hours. Yep. And so no one needs anyone.
I don't have to walk into any store. I can just do curbside
Not even that, but like, well, true, but it's so easy to isolate. I mean, I still feel pretty lonely in the grocery store. That's not
I feel kind of attacked with the Amazon deliveries, but but yeah, so I get it.
I mean, also same.
But yeah, I think, you know, when we do isolate, the whole purpose of being in a community that is godly is so that you can speak life back into people when they need it, and so they can speak life back into you, and so you can do life together in the way that God is designed. And when you're isolated, you don't have anybody speaking life into you. And if you're one of those people that can isolate and speak life into yourself while you're isolated,
hit your girls up
because that's a
we want to interview you.
Yes, please. So
absolutely. I mean, I think I definitely struggle most with self-comparison as well, but I think it's just because it's such a broad area or facet of
I
comparison.
think that's the comparison that we were all brought up about, you know, knowing about.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, you're comparing your jeans to her jeans. You're comparing your shoes to her shoes. You know, whatever.
Absolutely.
And that was kind of what the stuff that middle school bullies were made of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think, you know, and if I'm being really honest, I think a superiority comparison was, I don't think it is so much now, but for a big piece of my life, a superiority comparison is really kind of was my safe space, which makes me sound super horrendously judgmental.
No. I don't think so. I think you're being honest.
I'm being honest. We all have
those things where we're like, I remember being in band and being like, I've got this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll win this challenge and I'll do this and I'll do this. And then when I get my butt kicked, I'm like, what happened?
Well, there's a difference between confidence and superiority comparison. So, like,
never gave people the chance to, like, I didn't think anything would happen. I was like, they don't do this right. I've got it. And then... Like, it's not about one thing. It's about the entire package.
Right. And, I was a very insecure person for a while. And that's just because of, things that happened in my childhood and, you know, words that were spoken over me by, you know, people that maybe didn't intend for them to harm the way they did. But they did. And so I felt like I just fell short a lot. Oh, you're almost really great. And so I think because that was kind of that spoken, you know, that nonverbal, you know, thing that I was spoken over me, I guess. That sentence was a little disconnected, but it's fine.
It's all good. We followed it.
And I think because of that, what it led to is the areas that I was naturally gifted, which there are a lot. I have lots of natural gifts. Oh, I hit the table, sorry. I have lots of natural gifts, and I can say that without being egotistical. I know that I have lots to offer. And when I was stuck in this superiority comparison mindset, I still was confident. Like, I knew that I had a lot to offer, but I really just, I struggled because, I wouldn't try things that I knew that I might have to work at.
Right.
I only did the things that I knew that I would excel at, and then I could feel superior to other people because I felt inferior the majority of my childhood.
And I think, you know, whichever type of comparison it is, it all comes from a place of insecurity or fear.
Absolutely.
You're looking at it as from a place of lack rather than a place of abundance.
Yeah.
However you boil it down. Yeah. And it's hard to do, but in high school I got really good grades and I didn't have to try. Right. Well, that doesn't translate well to college.
It doesn't, because that's my story too, girl.
And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll get out and join the Navy.
I got through college with C's equals degrees, y'all.
Yeah, I did very well. You know, I had very good grades, and I was in all the things academically, and then when I got to college, I was like, man, I got this. Well,
it's a whole different game.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't got this. So.
Yeah.
Ask my mom.
Well, I went to like three colleges.
Oh.
A lot of colleges. It's fine. Oh, you got me beat? Yes.
I think 5.
I went to 3.
6 if you count graduate school, but I didn't finish that.
I didn't even try grad school. It wasn't even in my desires. But nonetheless, we digress. I think, so for me, I would say I definitely struggle most with self and superiority. Like I said, not so much now, but I can look back over periods of my life, and I can easily see that self superiority comparison was really a big piece. But I don't think in that moment, obviously, now that I've done the research and we've really unpacked these topics, in that time when I was kind of stuck in that superiority comparative narrative, you don't feel isolated like you do when you're in a self-comparison. It's different.
Yeah.
You're still separated, right, but you don't feel isolated.
You're kind of elevating yourself above someone else to make yourself feel better.
Absolutely.
And I think that, when we're looking at these types of comparison, because it was kind of a shock, I think.
Yeah, it was for
to
me.
figure out and say, oh, these are all different types of comparison that we're struggling with.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at superiority, you are still separated, but you're trying to put yourself up higher than somebody else and be like, oh, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
Because we need some sort of validation, and the validation needs to come from God, but instead we're trying to seek it from the world.
Yeah, 100%. So. And I think that type of separation, when you're struggling with a superiority comparison, that one's really hard to identify, I feel like. Because you almost just feel, I know I felt like I was just finding the right people. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I just felt like, oh, I'm so far above some of these people that I don't need to associate with them, and so thereby I was disconnected. Now, not all of those people should have been in my circle anyway, but
right, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
soon
coming up. But I definitely put myself in situations where I knew that I would excel.
Yep. Well, and I think, there's a certain comfort in that too.
Absolutely.
I mean, we don't grow unless we're out of our comfort zone. We all know that. Completely. Change is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
However, stepping out and doing things and learning things is part of
absolutely
the whole big ball of wax. It's okay, this is fun. I love to learn. I'm a geek.
Yeah.
At my core, I'm like, oh, teach me something. And it's easier for me to sit back and say, I already know this.
Yeah.
I don't need to go out and learn. But my brain starts kind of playing a bad narrative in my head at some point, and it needs to stay busy, I guess. And I don't know if that's the ADHD or just me.
Or both.
Or both.
I know for me, when you said you want to learn something, sometimes I agree. I love learning about herbs. This makes me sound so dorky, but I love herbal medicine and my herbal teas, and I'm just really I kind of want to go get a master herbalist license. And those of you who knew me 4 years ago are
she hated
what?
Outdoors.
I literally have a sweatshirt that says indoorsy. I haven't worn it in quite some time.
Yeah, because now you're outdoorsy. You're in your garden.
Now I like things. But when you say you want to learn stuff, I like to learn stuff too. But when I'm struggling with superiority comparison, I like to be more of a teacher.
Yes.
And so there's a time and a place that I have found where you need to learn and where you need to teach. Absolutely. And so, which is kind of why we're here, because we learned. Yes. And now we're teaching. So
funny how that works.
We're not coming to you from a superiority comparison mindset, by the way.
No.
At all.
We're so not.
If you've been around for the last few episodes or all of the episodes, you know that like we're super honest and really vulnerable with what we share with you guys, and it feels pretty easy sometimes to talk about that when it's just me and Steph, but every Friday at 2,
it's not just us.
When it goes live and premiering, we're like, oh, what did we say?
And I struggle with that every week. I'm like, I can't. And then I get texts saying, hey, this was really great. It's your life over me. And that means a lot.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
really does, because we're just two people.
We're just trying to do what God says.
Just trying to be obedient to what God wants us to do.
I think the only other type of comparison we needed to discuss as we wrap this up is that humble comparison, which isn't...
and I'd say that I struggle somewhat with that, not as much as self-comparison.
Yeah.
But, you know, I survived abuse. Was it as bad as other people's? No. But it was valid.
Yeah.
I survived, all kinds of things in my life, as we all have. But I don't think that our stories, like, it's not done on a sliding scale. No. It's our stories are valid, period.
Right.
And
like what you've been through matters, and it's important. And God can use every bit of it.
Yep.
Every bit of it.
If you let him.
Yeah.
Like, that's the hard thing. You're like, I'm going to hold this close in, and he's nudging you. And you're like, but my story isn't as, relevant.
I mean, I struggled with that.
Whatever,
we talked about that when we talked about humble comparison. Yep. I struggled really hard. Here I was trying to mentor this woman who's a little bit younger than me, and in reality, she had been through such a different situation than I had been through. But we still both got robbed of some innocence, and so we could relate. But like, I'll never go through exactly what someone else has been through, and if that were the case, like if we're trying to say, oh well, if we were all similar, then we couldn't learn, we couldn't grow, and we couldn't become uncomfortable. Correct. I mean, sitting across from the table, hearing what this woman went through, that was not comfortable for me. My heart broke. I mean, I was in tears, and I thought, how do I help her when I can't even relate to that? And it was Steph that was like, babe,
you can relate.
You literally can relate to that, though. And so,
but that's a really good point, though, because our stories aren't supposed to be the same story.
Right.
It's supposed to open doors, and we're supposed to be able to connect to one another because of them, and we're supposed to be vulnerable and share with each other. But they don't have to be identical, and they never will be identical.
Right.
But they're still important, and they are still impactful.
Right. So basically, the moral of this episode is to just say that, we wanted to kind of summarize those 3 types of comparison for you again, all in one spot, and really give real world examples how they disconnected us. I know, we kind of talked about how when I was in superiority comparison, I separated from the people who I felt that, maybe I was a little bit better than. And I think that's I have to just also clarify that a superiority comparison doesn't always equal judgment. So I think it's easy to be like, wow, you guys are judgmental or whatever. No, we're just honest. No, You're honest. Probably judgmental too, if I'm being honest.
Right.
We all have snap judgments, and because we're all different, and because we've all been through different things, and that our lives have shaped us in such a way, we all experience things that cause us to be slightly judgmental from time to time. And that superiority complex, while it is definitely on the more judgmental side of comparison, it's not just judgment, you guys. Mm-hmm. It's comparison that elevates you above someone else, which therefore separates you from them. Judgmental thoughts don't just separate you. Being judgmental as a general, it just kind of makes you not a nice person, which maybe by nature would separate you from someone. Right. But it doesn't have to separate you. Where a superiority comparative thought process, it's going to separate you. Yep. When you're stuck, unwilling to try things because you don't want to fail at them, if you're stuck, which that was my problem for most of my life, I didn't want to fail, so I just didn't try, and so I stuck in the lanes that were easy and came very naturally to me, and I didn't put myself out there. I honestly, it's honestly probably not until I started writing a whole lot that kind of changed for me, that shifted. Being a writer is, I think it's a path I kind of always felt in the pit of my soul. Mm-hmm. My grandma certainly knew. I didn't know this, but she told her best friend that one day I might tear up a little bit, that I was an incredible writer, and that, yeah. And so she knew. She was right. She was right. I wish she was here to see it. Sorry. I love my grandma so much. These are her books. So anyway, sorry about all that, but she knew and I didn't, but it wasn't until I had to shift my thought process and put myself in a place that was super uncomfortable, mm-hmm. that I realized, like, oh, I can learn something. I can put myself in this space where it is uncomfortable. I mean, I've shared with you guys how incredible She Speaks was when I first went in person, and that was really the most uncomfortable I've ever been in my entire life. Yeah. And so, and Steph will get to experience that in a few months. Finally. But that was the most uncomfortable I've ever been. But it was from that moment, it was from that weekend that I signed a publishing contract to write devotions. It's from that one uncomfortable moment that we found our literary agent. Hey, girl. Hey, Javon. Like, if we wouldn't have pushed past that level of superiority comparison, I keep wanting to say complex. If I wouldn't push past that superiority comparison to make myself be uncomfortable, we wouldn't be here.
No, we wouldn't.
In general.
And I know when I first started writing, I had a blog and nobody read it. And I was like, well, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I know this now, but I was seeking the validation from other people. When God told me to write, I didn't need to ask 15 people, hey, is this okay? Is this right? Is this whatever?
Right.
And it was when I finally was like, okay, and I've just always been very vulnerable in my writing, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you leave room for him to move in, and it's funny because we make jokes about it in the books. Like, did you write this or did I? Because
I genuinely can't tell half the time if it was my words or yours.
But when we're going through life, there's those moments that are defining.
Isn't it weird? I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but she's telling the truth. When we read our pieces that have now been sliced together, we genuinely don't know who wrote what, unless it's like a personal story that we've obviously written. Yeah. If it's just general content, like, we really are like, did you write this? I don't think I wrote this. I'm like, but I don't know. But it's so weird to me that we are so different, but our writing voice is one.
Yeah, and we were actually told that in the pilot books. So like, if I didn't know that there were two different authors sitting in front of me, I would have thought it was one person. Yeah, it's super amazing what God can do if you walk away from comparison. If you surrender your insecurities to him and say, fine, I'm just going to do what you're going to do. Because life's a little easier that way.
It is. It really is. I try to tell my son that all the time.
Yeah.
If you would just listen to what I say.
Correct. Good luck with that.
It's so much easier.
Mm-hmm. When he's about 26.
Oh, that's a long time.
It is.
I'm tired. Anyway, well, we are a little over time as usual. So thanks for sticking with us.
Unfiltered.
some tears. You have to have room for some tears and some,
and some laughter.
Yes. But basically, we just wanted to kind of close this out and say that, like, when you are stuck in these types of comparison, not only are you disconnected, we gave you specific examples of how we became disconnected. Yeah. In the next episode, we're going to talk about reconnecting. A little segue for you. But really, it's all this does is silence God's voice in your life. And so we just want you kind of to hang on to that. When you feel stuck in any type of comparison at all, it's really just the silencing of God, and that is where that separation comes from. Yeah. When you can't hear his voice, you are very far from him. Not that you can't ever go back. So
you're one step away.
You're one step away. But you definitely start to feel that distance. And so we want you to stick around and stay tuned for next week's episode. Yep. Because we're going to talk about reconnecting.
Yep. And make sure you follow us on socials and check out our websites. Everything's in the link below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. What else did I miss?
No, you covered. Check.
But everything's in the description. If this has been impactful to you, shoot us an email. I will make sure that our email addresses.
And share it. You don't have to share it on your whole social media page, but if you think that there's somebody could benefit, literally just to hear it, just click the share button and copy the link and text it to your girl.
Yeah.
I assume that it's your girl. Maybe it's your boy. I don't know.
So, but just let us know if there's something that you want to see, if there's something that you're walking through that we can help pray for you, whatever it is. Our email is actually tedderandweber@gmail.com. Yep. All spelled out, no ampersands or anything. And I'll add it in the description as well.
Yeah. So. All right, awesome. Guys. Have a great week.
Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next Friday.
Bye.
Bye.